there were some tremors, little earthquakes before it erupted, so everybody fled. So everybody in the village just left everything as it was, and they left.
They could, huh?
Yeah, after they couldn't take anything with them because it was really fast. And in a matter of hours right after the tremors, the volcano erupted. So what happened is that the whole village was buried by ash. You know, all this ash fell on top of the village, and about 7 meters of ash covered the whole village. So what happened is that you have this whole village that's incredibly well preserved, because the ash covered the houses and the buildings, and the ash preserved the constructions. So 1400 years later, in 1976, there was a tractor that was working right there to build some silos for grains for the government. And suddenly the tractor cut half of the hill here. The hill goes like this. Made a cut, and a house appeared. What's this? But it was so well preserved. The guy from the tractor got down and said, "This looks interesting." So he went to the museum, and he called somebody in the museum. And the guy from the museum came down, and he looked at the house, and you know, you could see the house perfectly because it was the cut, and you could see the house. But it was so well preserved that the guy from the museum said, "No, this can't be old.
Yeah.
Just continue working."
Wow.
So, by the way, the guy from the museum was not me, okay?
He's got fired already.
And you know, this was in 1976, so the tractor kept working, and who knows how many buildings were destroyed. Fortunately, at that same year, a professor from the University of Colorado, actually my advisor at the university, was working in the valley. In this valley, he was making a survey. So a local guy came down and said, "Hey, doctor, you know, they found this interesting stuff at Joya de Serena. You should come and check it out." Okay. So he come down, he looked at the house, and it was really well preserved. So he went inside the house, and he found all this Maya ceramics. So he took a sample of one of the beams in the wooden beams in the house, and he took it to the University of Colorado and dated, and it turned out to be 1400 years old.
Wow.
So then from there they stopped the tractor, any building, and they protected the site, and they started excavating, and several excavations have been done since then here. So the interesting thing about this site, this is the only World Heritage that El Salvador has. This site has considered World Heritage by the UNESCO. And the interesting thing about this site is that, you know, most archaeologists are interested in excavating like the pyramids, where the rich people live, where the big rulers, Maya rulers live. But this is one of the few sites that gives us an insight of how the normal people live, like the agriculturalists, because we're going to see their houses, we're going to see part of the village that has been excavated. Okay, that's the only thing. So another interesting thing why this site is important is because when the volcano erupted, everybody left, and they left their things in the houses. So archaeologists can tell their daily life by what they found. So unfortunately the museum hasn't been finished yet, but what we're going to see is we're going to see the houses and the structures of this guy. On the sides, you see those walls, that's the layers of ash that fell on top of the whole village. So you can have an idea of how the ash covered all of the buildings. Layers. Because that was the original surface before. So this was excavated, and this is actually the largest building that has been uncovered. And this building was used as a community center. This is more like a, kind of like a council house. This is where the old the old Maya guys will get together to solve the problems of the village. And you can see that it's really well built. It's got a really thick foundation. This building is made of dirt.
Mud.
mud, yeah, packed dirt. You know, wet. They did it wet, and with the eruption, some of the layers of ash had some heat, had some temperature, so that helped harden the walls. And it's got a real well-built foundation, really straight lines, and there's 2 benches on this side. There's the door over there, and those niches that were probably some figurines were found in those niches for some gods or goddesses. And the reason why we know this building was used for that as a council place is because it's the largest building. It has a lot of space, and inside only 1 artifact, well, actually 2 artifacts were found, which was a big pot with fermented beverage inside. We call this fermented, basically kind of moonshine, but it's not so strong. We call it chicha, which is made of fruit, fermented fruit and corn.
It's like a wine kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they have this big pot on top of one of those benches, and a smaller pot that was used to serve. So what they did is they got together here and drank chicha and talked about the problems of the village.
That's awesome.
And very thick walls. What you would have here is there would be a wooden beam, like a frame on top of this whole building that would hold the roof. It would be like a wooden frame that hold the thatch roof. So here you can have an idea of how important the site is, because there are no well-preserved buildings like this in any place in America, because we have the chance that it was covered by the eruption. And you can imagine if you leave a building like this in the rain, in 3 years it disappears. Maybe, you know, in 3 winters it's gonna be gone, it's gonna melt. And this is 1400 years old. So we have, so that's a big advantage of this site. Like Pompeii, right? Like Pompeii. Lasted for like 300 years, and then came coffee, which is still the main product.
So the beginning was which one?
They began with cocoa,
cocoa,
the Spanish. They exported to Spain, and a lot of people made a lot of money. Chocolate and Europe became big, and then indigo. Indigo became big too. They exported to Spain.
What was that?
Europe.
What dye. Oh, dye?
Yeah, for dyeing cloth, and it's a really nice blue. So this lasted until around 1820s, 1850s, and then they brought coffee, which became the main.
Yeah.